If you have 3 envelopes, 2 of a smaller size that will fit inside the larger envelope that you have, you can make this beautiful journal set. So here is the larger envelope. You could put to or from here. I don't think you could mail it because of the portfolio closures, but you could definitely give it as a gift. You could put it in an envelope and send it in Happy Mail, or you could keep it for yourself. Now, I have not decorated my journal yet, but I have added the pages. So you can have pages. You could have pages that have built-in pockets. You can have pages that fold out. You could have quite a few pages in here, even ones that have that wonderful sound. I'm going to show you how I constructed all of this. Won't you join me? Hi, Best Buds. It's Cathy with Cathy's Garden, and I'm so happy that you've joined me today. Yes, you're going to be needing 2 envelopes that are the same size, that are small enough to fit nicely and easily inside your larger envelope. Now, my smaller envelopes are 6.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And my larger envelope is 9 inches by 5 3/4 inches. Let's go ahead and let's make our journal cover first. We're going to do this the easy way. We're going to open both envelopes up, and we're going to be placing this flap into this opening of the envelope like this. Work with it just a little bit so you can get the envelopes so that they close and that one is not larger than the other one, that they're fairly even. This is the look that you're after. We're going to apply our glue to this outside flap. This flap has been tucked inside this envelope, leaving this flap loose. Let's glue this flap down. I'm using my art glitter glue, but you can use the glue of your choice. Make sure you open it up and glue it down. And once you do that, go ahead and make sure it still closes. I'm going to let mine dry, opened up like this. Next, you're going to want to select your decorative paper. Maybe you have some digitals, or maybe you have some paper from a paper pad. Both will work perfect. I'm going to choose this for my cover of my journal. This portion right here is the cover, the front and back cover of your journal, the one in which we glued the flap down on. So I'm looking at my paper, and I think I'd like to place my envelope about right here, but I need to do it underneath. So let me grab my Yoo-Hoo glue stick, and I'm going to apply my glue all over this portion of my envelopes that I've glued together. I'm also going to use my wet glue. Mine is art glitter glue, and I'm going to just apply some glue on the edges, just to make sure that the edges are stuck nicely. So now we're going to be placing our paper right on here like this. I've laid my envelope so there's extra paper that I need to trim away. A little tip when cutting close to an envelope. If you tilt your scissors outward just a little bit, you will not catch that paper of the envelope and open up your pocket. So just a little tilt outward will do the trick. I'm going to make my pockets the same print as I covered the outside with. Now I want my pocket area to be a little stronger so that you can get things in and out of the pocket and not worry about tearing your pocket. I'm going to take the edge of my decorative paper and I'm going to fold it over approximately 1/2 inch. If you can do 1/4 of an inch, just a small amount. What is this exactly? This is 1/2. And then I'm going to glue it down. If you're going to sew around the edge of your journal, you might want to take it to the machine and sew across where we're going to add the pocket. I did not do this in my example, but after I finished, I thought, well, if you're going to sew, it would be nice to carry out that theme of the sewing edge by sewing the top of your pocket. So I'm actually going to do this in this video, just to show you what it looks like. Now, if you don't have a machine, you still can make this project. Sewing only adds another layer, another type of decoration. As you can see, I have sewn at the top where I folded it over. And then right here, right where this flap comes up, I'm going to put my glue all the way across. Now, if you need to use a ruler, you can place your ruler right on top of this area right here and draw a line with your pencil. Now you have a guide as to where you're going to be placing your glue so you can add your pocket. I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and then I'm going to be adding the glue across the top. With my sewn edge at the top, I'm going to lay my paper directly on that line. I will now need to trim out my paper. All right, so now we have pocket on this side. I'd like to do the same I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now we have both pockets in place. It's time to trim out this white area that we've left. Using my scissors, I'm going to trim the paper out. Now it looks like this. We're going to need to cover this inside of our journal. I'm going to use different paper for the inside. So what I'd like to do is kind of measure roughly, placing my journal cover over my selected paper and just trimming it out. So trimming your paper so you can fit it inside underneath the two pockets. And then we're going to glue this down. I'm going to do it the super simple way by just lifting it up, sticking my glue in here, and adding some. That's enough glue to hold it in place. I need to trim just a little bit better. If you like the way inking looks, this is the time in which you can take your sponge and your chosen ink color. Mine happens to be Vintage Photo, and we're going to ink inside and outside of our journal. If you've chosen to sew your journal, now is the time to take it to the machine and sew all the way around. All right, so I have finished sewing my little journal cover, and let's go ahead and let's fold it. I used an up and down for my insert. If you didn't, then you can turn yours any way you want to get the look that you want. But this happens to be the front of my journal. All right, so this is our little journal cover. And it will fit nicely inside our larger envelope, which is going to be the holder for our little junk journal. Let's switch our attention to the larger envelope. The scrap pieces that I have from the paper in which I use to cover my little journal, I have decided to use as accent pieces to decorate my larger envelope. I think I'd like to trim out this rosebud right here. When fussy cutting, the easiest and most simple way to do that is to keep your scissors steady and move your paper. It's just so much simpler that way. Now I have a few pieces that I can work with for decorating. I'm going to take my flap. I'm going to remove the sticky portion of my flap. I'm going to add just a little bit more glue just to make sure that it stays glued down. I'm going to place it right inside my envelope like this. My envelope happens to be coffee dyed, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm not going to cover it up a lot. This side of the envelope has the flap folded into it, so it's a little sturdier. So we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to fold it over like this, keeping the side where we folded our flap in on the outside like this. And let's fold it over. I'm going to fold it over. It looks like it's about 1 1/4 inches. I'm going to give it a crease. All right, so now it's like this. Right here where we folded it, let me go ahead and highlight it for you so you can see it a little better. I'm going to remove this portion down to the fold area. All right, so now it looks just like this. I think that looks pretty. I also want to add a little bit of book page underneath. I've chosen this book page to accent my envelope, and I'm going to use my tear ruler, and I'm going to tear off the border of my paper. Bringing my envelope back in, I'd like this to fit within this area. I think this will be fine. However, I do want to bring this down just a little bit, so I'm going to need to shorten it up. Before I glue it down, I'd like to add a little bit of the vintage photo around the edge. I'm also going to ink up my envelope. I also want to accent the inside of my envelope as well as the flap and the back here. So I have selected this paper right here, and I'm going to put it inside my envelope. But I'm just going to add it just a little ways down, because what I want to do is I want this portion to decorate the back. It's also going to decorate this flap here. So let's add a little bit of glue, slip it inside of our envelope, press it down, and then finish by adding a little bit of glue onto the flap and gluing that portion down, turning it over, and I'd like to give it a little decorative edge right here. I have my wavy scissors, and I'm going to cut just across the bottom. To help me keep it straight, I'm going to mark it with my pencil, and that way I have a little guide for my scissors. I want to ink up my scalloped edge here. And now I can finish gluing this down. I'm going to add my glue to my paper as well as my flap, folding it right at the top of the flap. Now we have our flap decorated on the inside as well as the outside, but I'm not going to fold it right now because it's very wet. But I do want to take a little scallop right here. So I marked the center, so I have an idea of how far down I want to take my scallop. Remember, you just have a small flap, and I want my flap to cover this area. And of course, I'm going to highlight my scallops with my sponge. While this dries, because we can't fold it down quite yet, let's go back to our little journal and add some pages inside. Maybe some dangles. That would be fun. I have 5 different papers here. I have coffee dyed tracing paper. I have some of that paper that we made this summer outside. I have some more coffee dyed papers, and I have 5 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make some built-in pockets and some fold-outs. So my envelope journal folded is approximately 3 3/4 inches wide. Let's fold this 3 inches. From here to here is 3 inches. It's going to fit into the journal like this, and we're going to want to fold this over. We're going to have to trim this just a little bit, but it looks, I'm just going to give it an idea of where to fold it, and then I'm going to fold it a little further over so it will fit within our journal. So right now this is 3.5 inches. And I'm going to trim this off right here. I'm going to trim it off, placing it back in my journal. I'm going to mark it once again, and then trimming below my mark. Now when we use it as a page for our journal, we'll be attaching it like this. You will be able to have a fold-out page. Let's make a page with a pocket. So I'm going to fold my page up 2 inches approximately. It looks like it might be at 2 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to use this paper as my guide. I'm going to place this in here like this. And I'm going to trim this off. I'm going to mark it. I would like to have another fold out page. So let's take this one. That's about 2 1/4. And then let's bring in our page here. Our pages. And our pages are 3.5. So let's just fold this over 3.5 and giving it a cut. Need to mark the length. We have another coffee dyed page. I think I'll make it as full length. We'll make this a standard page. I think we have our pages for our journal. We have this one that folds out. We have this one that folds out the other way. We have this one that's standard. This one's standard. I'm thinking I might move that in between these two. And then I have the one that has the pockets. Now, do I want the pockets on the inside or the up? I think I'm going to leave it just like that. It's time to paper clip our pages into our journal. The easiest way I know to sew in a journal is to get yourself a scrap piece of paper and fold it in half the long way, about 1 inch. It's about 1 inch wide here. I'm going to give this a trim. Now you're going to cut this the length of the journal itself. Give it a trim. So our page looks just like this, and it's as long as the journal. We're going to fold it in half the long way, crease it, fold it in half again, crease it, and where the folds are intersecting, that's when you're going to put a little dot. This dot is going to tell you where you're going to place your awl and put your holes for you to sew in your signature. This way it's going to be even and you don't have to do any math. I'm just going to make sure I've got my pocket the way I want. It is. That's how it goes. Make sure I'm right side up. I need to check that. A little packing material, my awl. Hold your awl straight up and down. Push it all the way through all of the papers, including your cover. Then don't forget, take out your little sheet here, but don't take out all your paper clips. You're going to need them to stay in place. Here's my needle and my binding thread, and I like to measure 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do one more, 4, because I don't like to struggle. I don't like to struggle when I'm putting on dangles. So this is plenty of thread. You can do it however you like to do it, but this is how I do it. So in the center hole, pull it through, go all the way to one of the other holes, pull it through, go all the way down to the last hole, and then back into the center hole. This is a very simple pamphlet stitch. Now, checking to make sure it's not caught on anything, and I like to even my threads, especially since I'm going to be doing a dangle. I'd like them to be even. Now I need one of the threads on one side of the center thread and one on the other. pulling it tight, making sure it's not caught on anything one last time, and then tying a knot. If you're using embroidery thread, you'll need to leave your journal open and add a little dab of wet glue on that knot and let it dry. Embroidery thread loosens up over time and your signature will wobble if you don't add your little dab of glue. And here we have our little journal with our signature pages all sewn in. We have fold outs, we have crinkle pages, decorative pages, coffee dyed pages. Here's that built-in pocket. This is where we're going to need to take just a little bit of glue, add it right along the side, and then glue our pocket. Now we have a little pocket already built in like this. Crinkle page, and then another beautiful page right here. Adding a few dangles next. I like to start by adding a knot first right up underneath the bottom of the journal, and then your first bead, and then take your thread and go back through the hole. So now you have a loop. Taking your awl, put it through the hole of that loop, put it through that loop, and bring your bead right up to the knot that you made, just like that. So it's going to be held in place nicely. Adding another bead and one more bead. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to add it back through the hole, making a loop, placing my awl right through that loop, and bringing that bead all the way up to the last bead. There, now you've got your dangle. We're going to add 2 more knots at the bottom of the last bead and then trimming it off. I don't trim it right at the edge of that knot. I trim it down a little further. And then of course, before you're all done, you want to take some wet glue, put it on the knot at the bottom, and let it dry. As for decorating your little journal, you could add pictures to the front like this. You could add lace to the edge. You could add pieces of ephemera in the pockets. You could add little tabs to your pages. You can even take pieces like this and glue them onto your shorter page, and then when you turn it over, it will make a little pocket right here in this area. There are lots of ways in which you can decorate your little journal. We need to get back to our envelope, so let's fold over our flap. All right, so we have our flap folded over. I'm just going to take a little bit off the edge, just a tiny bit. That's a tiny sliver to hang on to. I'm going to use a paper clip to hold this closed, and I'm going to add my book page right here. So I'm going to switch to my Yoo-Hoo glue stick. I'm going to place a little bit of glue on the edge. How do we want to arrange our fussy cuts? I'm not sure. Maybe something like that. Now remember, we're going to have our closure. I have some circles here. I was hoping that I could use one of these circles that I've already made. They're not going to be matchy-matchy, but I kind of didn't want it to be matchy-matchy. I think I like these two. All right, so I've got my circles selected. Let's go ahead and let's glue down our picture. Okay, so let's get the glue on the fussy cut. Remember, don't forget that this is going to be like this. Oh, that's sweet. I like it right there. Now you've got your circles and you've got your holes in your circles. You're going to also have to get another circle out of a cardstock. And we're going to mark right here on the circle where the hole is. So it's going to look like that, because that's where we're going to have to put our hole or the backs for our decorative circles. Here are my brads, and let's see. Now you'll want to take the one that's not decorative and the one that's decorative and place them together. Place your brad through your hole and then open the brad up. I like to use the back of my awl to press it open. So that one's finished. I'm going to place this as the middle as I can, maybe something like that. Before I put my closure on, I want to put just a little bit of lace right here on the flap. Using my hot glue gun, a Surebonder high temp, with that specialty tip, I'm going to place my lace right into that glue, press it down. Alrighty, now it's time to add our closures. So I think I'd like it to go something like this. I'm going to find the middle, and I'm going to use my hot glue for this as well. It just makes it so easy when you make a video because it's glued down, it's permanent, and I don't have to worry about it moving around on me. And then we're going to take our second one. We're going to place it down below just a little bit. Now you're going to need a little bit of baker's twine or some type of cording. Placing the baker's twine between the two circles and tying a knot. And I always like to tie my knot in the direction on which I'm going to be pulling my thread or my twine. And that's going to be downward, so that's why I've placed it on the bottom. Trim your excess off. And now we're going to go back and forth just a couple times. This. And yes, you know, I'm going to put a bead on the end of mine. And I'm going to place a knot and then another knot at the other end of the bead. And there we have our envelope that's going to hold our journal. You could write to and from, you could do some stamping here, you could put another pocket if you wish, but your little journal will fit right inside. These are absolutely ideal for gifts, for yourself, or for Happy Mail. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll see you there, guys. Bye now.